Hey guys, so today I'm going to talk about a show that's fairly well known. It's called Inuyasha. Inuyasha is a fairly popular show. Now, before I try to explain this series, I want you guys to see what I'm going to talk about, which is if you've seen the show at all, try to explain the storyline in 2 minutes. Here, I'll wait. Are you done? Were you able to do it? It's a very complicated storyline. It's hard to explain. In many ways, that is the asset the series brings to, everything. It is the series. It's what makes it special. Is the storyline is complex. It's got a lot of backstories that are complicated and need explaining to actually understand the overall storyline. In fact, it's complicated enough, I don't even think I want to try to explain it in this YouTube video. Just because the backstories they become important. Everybody's backstory has some significance. Everybody's backstory constantly gets related in the overall storyline. Now, having said that, this series' backstories are, how do I say this? They don't seem necessary when you're watching them sometimes. Like, you just think it's another battle thing. But they definitely become important. The other aspect of the series, that I don't know why this seems to be so interesting to people, but it definitely is, and that is the love triangle aspect of it. If you've seen the series, you know what I'm talking about. I'm trying not to give too much away, but I'll probably end up using spoilers here in a minute. But the love triangle is an interesting one because it's not really... Here, spoiler. You look at here. Wait. I give it a 3 out of 5. It's kind of a middle road series for me personally. I never became too fond with it. I liked it. Anyway, I don't want to go into too much detail. You can check it out. It's all over the place online. I'd recommend buying it because we should support the industry. But if you want to do whatever you want to do, it's fine. Anyway, the love triangle is especially interesting because it's not really dealing with, it's not really a love triangle in a sense, because the three, if you don't know what love triangle I'm talking about, it's Kagome, Inuyasha, and Ghost Lady. I'm not even going to say her name because she's a ghost lady. She's dead. There's no reason that she should be in this equation. It should be, the couple's obvious. There's no question. Really what it is it's the mental, it's this guy getting over his old girlfriend. That's what the series is kind of about. I mean, yeah, he's on this giant quest to become human or to become a full demon. We all know how it's probably going to end in the end, but you know what I'm saying? It's an interesting component to the storyline. Also, I think that the romantic aspect of it becomes partially dull, but at the same time, they're able to keep you interested in it. In other words, it doesn't advance very quickly, but because each segment seems so important, each segment you think they're going to get there, and then nope. In many ways, it's kind of like that guy who cries wolf or whatever, the boy that cries wolf. You always think they're going to get their next episode, and then no, it doesn't work out, and it's annoying, and it's part of the reason why this show is not more highly ranked by me, is because the love triangle aspect of it is just irritating. It's just also the other guy in the storyline totally gets thrown out of the series, like it totally is irrelevant. Once you get fairly into the show. And that's that guy back home. The guy who's not in this magical world. The guy that's not in ancient Japan, that's in modern Japan. I feel sorry for that fuck. I'm going to be real with you. I mean, could she not just say that she wasn't interested? But they constantly keep that possibility because they want to create tension. I don't want to go into too much detail, but it serves a function. I think the rest of the characters, I'm just going to say that, do a fairly good job. Inuyasha's brother, and I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, I think is one of the most interesting characters in the series, simply because of his actions later on. Initially, he starts out almost like a stereotypical villain. You know, he's an evil fuck. But then after a while, after he loses his arm and kind of helps out Inuyasha, you know, he becomes a deeper character. And that's something I will say about all the characters in the storyline, is they all have some depth to them. And that's hard to find in anime. And that is something to say about the series that I think's good. But having said that, I think that it just goes on really long for not much development. They're always about to catch this ultimate evil dude. They always end up fighting this evil dude, and it's always a cop-out. It's always, well, we almost got him. Well, at least we saved What's-Her-Face, so yeah, we didn't catch him, you know. It's always kind of a cop-out. But I think what the other aspect of it is, the world they create is, in many ways, kind of a gory world. It's not a very clean anime in a sense. It's not like, you know, Dragon Ball Z had a lot of fighting. But if you were watching the American version of it, there was like no blood ever. But in Inuyasha, there's like demon blood everywhere. I mean, it's kind of a gory series. Now, having said that, it's interesting the demographic that, you know, is really into the series. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but the women I know that are into anime, they tend to, I should say, have a fondness for this show or Full Metal Alchemist. I don't know why that is. It could be just the women I'm hanging out with. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But having said that, it could be something else. I don't know. Maybe it's the storylines. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But if I did, I'd be happy. I'd like to know why. But yeah. The dub, I'd say it's a little bit, I'd say it's average. It's kind of flat. Be real with you, I wasn't fond of Inuyasha's voice. I know, it kind of fit his character, but it just was kind of irritating and it got on my nerves. Also, the Jewel Shard aspect of the series, I like. It's almost like, I don't know why it reminds me of Lord of the Rings. Maybe because when I was watching the series, I read the book recently. But it reminds me a lot of the Lord of the Rings. And that's a good kind of story background to it, you know. I mean, I guess there's also an interesting, I mean, I'm not drawing absolute parallels, but just thinking about the people that like the series, something somebody brought up once upon a time was that the Full Metal Alchemist and this series, Inuyasha, have something in common with the ability of using these crystal things, these, you know, Philosopher's Stones, parts of this, you know, holy, you know, Jewel Shard, you know, to gain huge amounts of power, but it almost always turns out to be evil. And in that sense, the series definitely has some overlaps. There's also overlaps when it comes to people not quite being dead. You know, they use that a lot. And it's kind of a, if you really think about it, the show's kind of not, it's not very lighthearted. They deal with some heavy stuff, but it's at the same time that they're dealing with it, it's not dark. It's not like Elfen Lied. It's not like, you know, When They Cry kind of series. It's fairly lighthearted for what's going on around the series. It's like reading the, you know, Book of Grimm or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Or Grimm's Fairy Tales, you know, or they're kind of dark. A lot of times people die and stuff, but at the same time, it's kind of lighthearted and kind of fun, you know? I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, they died, but who the fuck cares, you know? Well, I guess you do care. What else? The animation, once again, the animation's older, so it can't be held to the same standards as modern animation. But I'd say for when it was produced, it was pretty good. It was about as good as they got, you know, on average. I mean, there's a few standout series that did a lot better, but their animation's pretty good. The template, the characters, I already mentioned, they had great character development. The background music and sound effects were spot on. There's no complaints there. I guess what I'm saying is the technicals they did a good job in. The plot, once again, great. The characters, depth, great. Frankly, the only detracting element that I have is subject matter. I'm not that kind of dark kind of person. I don't, you know what I mean? I'm not into kind of half-dead people. That's a personal preference thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like dark anime. I do, but I don't like partially dark anime. I like my coffee black if I'm going to have coffee, or I like, you know, sugary drinks. You see what I'm saying? But the other thing that I don't like about the series is the length. And that's something I'm going to come back to, and that's one of the major reasons this series isn't like a 4 or 5, is because the length is too long for the information they're communicating. Now, do they use that length to tell interesting sub-stories? Yeah, but you could fit almost all those sub-stories into, you know, 2 or 3 episodes versus, you know, this epic long storyline where it's like whole chapters that go by. Also, the villains and the enemies in the stories are at times very well done, but other times they're kind of just bullshit. They're kind of fake. They're kind of stupid. They're a waste of time. Like the cloud guys, you know, the cloud demons that can shoot arrows. Just not that attractive to me. I mean, you know, the concept wasn't attractive. The animated characters weren't that well done, in my opinion. And frankly, I thought that whole kind of segment was kind of flat to take something kind of early in the show. Frankly, I like the first. I like the beginning of the series a lot better than I like the middle. I'm looking forward to the end, because usually if shows have a problem, it's the middle arc. You know, it's the middle part of the storyline. They get the beginning good, the middle's a little flat, and then they get the end good. You know, if we're using classic storyline plot, you know, similarities. Is that it? I think it is. Yeah, almost. Let me think if I got anything else to say. Kagome, I think Kagome is one of the most interesting characters in the series because of she's like the center character. At the same time, she's playing not second fiddle, but hands over a significant part of the plot to Inuyasha and these other sub-characters. She's definitely the main character. There's no question in the storyline. She holds all the cards in the storyline, you know. But Inuyasha is definitely a significant character. So it's interesting the power balance in the storyline. You know, whose journey are we really on? You know, the show is called Inuyasha, but Kagome seems very important to the storyline. And it definitely does a very good blend of, you know, a love triangle and a shonen battle fight. Oh yeah, the fight scenes. I'll mention that. I think the fight scenes seem more appropriate for games, like a video game, than they did for a shonen. Let's just put it that way. They were kind of repetitive. It felt like I was playing a game watching it. Like I was playing, you know, Last Odyssey or something, you know, where you have a set number of moves. And to a certain extent, the characters kind of function that way, you know. And I think that that's definitely an interesting component because it makes the battling a lot more, I'm going to use this move, can this move defeat that move? You know, it's a lot more combat-oriented in a sense, more micromanaged. Much more similar like you could play it on a game. But that means that you don't have cool fight scenes, you know? And if you're going to have fight scenes every episode, which I think they basically do, there might have been a couple episodes where they have recaps, but almost every episode had some epic battle. And if you have a repetitive fighting style, it kind of eats away at the storyline. You know, it kind of makes the fights not as interesting as they could have been. Now, do I think that the fights were done poorly? No. I think the fights were unique in that they had this element to them. But it felt like we were playing, I was watching Pokemon in fight scenes. The fight scenes weren't well done, but they weren't horrible, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, once again, I give it a 3 out of 5. The major demerits, I guess if you want to put it that way, length of the series and Well, I think that's a big one. There's a couple littler things, but mostly it's just the length of the series. I look forward to seeing the end. Subscribe, comment, rate. Have a great day. Bye.